All right, Brandon. What's the name of your podcast and what's it about?
So the name of my podcast, I don't know if the shirt kind of gives it away, but my podcast is it's called Beef's Beef, and it's more garnered towards sports and stuff like that. But since I added my partner BJ Cato, I guess about 5 months ago, I mean we really don't talk about just one certain thing. Mostly it's predominantly sports. That's what we want to stay around. I mean, we talk about food. We get food reviews. We give reviews about movies, everything, man. So, but if one thing, I would say sports.
Okay. And how did you come up with the name, like Beef's Beef? How did that come about?
I know it's an off the wall name, Beef's Beef, but I've hung out with my friend group for years. I mean, some of us kindergarten, some of us, our whole life, some of us 4th, 5th grade, and hanging around in the same friend group, different nicknames and stuff like that. And there's 2 Brandons in my friend group, myself and then my buddy Brandon, who we call Smitty, and they just started calling me Beef. And I was telling them, hey, I'm gonna start a podcast. I don't know what I should call it. One of my buddies was just like, man, you always have beef with stuff. Why not Beef's Beef? And I was like, man, that's perfect. So yeah, that's where the name came from.
No, it's fitting and it stands out. Would you say that you have a target audience for the podcast, or?
A target audience? I think it's kind of tough to say that, man. I feel like if you say you have a target audience, it kind of shrinks you down into a mold that I don't really want to be in. You know what I mean? We like to do stuff to where if you're riding in a car, it doesn't matter who you're with. One, you're going to have a good time because you're going to be laughing. That's one thing, if you haven't listened to my podcast, you'll definitely see is we like to have a good time, making jokes about each other all the time and stuff like that. But we want it to be, hey, I got my grandma in the car, I got my kid in the car, I got my girlfriend in the car. We can listen to it, and not only just listen to it, but enjoy it.
What or who inspires you?
What or who inspires me? I see that's a tough question because I'm going to go ahead and take the easy way out and say both. Who inspires me? My dad. My dad is one of the biggest inspirations to me. And like I want to say, I'm not going to take anything away from my mom because my mom has definitely been inspirational in ways as well. But I'm the second youngest of 8 boys. So being the second to youngest, there was a lot of things that were around with my dad that was before I was even born. My dad working multiple jobs to help get my brothers through school, and then doing the same thing for myself and my 2 siblings that are around my age. So that's my biggest thing is I want to make this thing work to where it's like, yeah, you didn't work for no reason. And to say what inspires me as well, not just with who, failure. I don't want to fail, and that's the biggest thing, man. If I don't have that fear of failure, I'm not going to ever succeed.
I respect that. Favorite guest thus far?
My favorite guest thus far? It's tough, man. I've had a lot of good guests. And my favorite guest would be, I'm going to cop out again. I'm going to say 2 people, Joe B. Hall and Denny Crump. 2 Hall of Fame people and 2 Hall of Fame coaches.
Definitely. And so I know that had to been one up there for you as much as I know you love sports and basketball.
Oh, man, yeah.
That's awesome.
Huge.
And so piggybacking off of that, your favorite guest, what's been your favorite topic thus far?
My favorite topic thus far, we've had a lot of good episodes too, man. I'll be recording episode 94 today. So, I mean, there's a lot of them that I could take. But the one I'm going to take is actually a good friend of both of ours. He actually got both of us pretty much into coaching. Richard Gatewood. Richard came on, and it was around Halloween last year. And for those of you who don't know the story about Richard, he coached at Moore, then went on to Taylor County, then went on to a prep school down in South Carolina. He came on, told the story about that. Great episode. You guys should definitely check that out.
And favorite podcast other than yours?
Favorite podcast? The podcast I listen to the most. A favorite all-time podcast, Serial. It's a great podcast. I don't know if you guys have ever checked that out. It's the first season about Adnan Syed was fantastic. The one I listen to the most, though, is King of the Snake. It cracks me up, man. It's Brendan Schaub and Theo Vaughn's podcast. It's fantastic.
Okay. Dream collaboration.
Dream collaboration. I'll give 2 because, like I said, I'm giving 2 answers for everything. I'm giving a cop-out. But dream collaboration, number 1 in sports, LeBron James. LeBron James is my favorite athlete, bar none. not only for what he's done on the court, but what he's done off the court. Just his philanthropy that he's done. He's opened up a school, given back to the city of Akron so much. He's given back to so many different cities and different things that's happened to him in his life. You know, not having a dad when he was younger and everything like that is just seeing what he's done and everything that all the pressure that's been put on him. Is just, I would love to pick his brain. And then another one, comedy one, Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle's been my favorite comedian since I was young, which is probably crazy to say because at that age you probably shouldn't be listening to that stuff. But I've seen him in person 3 times now. I actually got a chance to see him in DC. I would love to sit down and just pick his brain, just like I said about LeBron. Just see, you know, how does this guy tick? Because I would love to have that.
Can't lie, man. That would be pretty dope. When did you know you wanted to pursue a podcast?
When did I know I wanted to pursue a podcast? So that's weird, man, because when I was younger, when I was a sophomore in high school, we had to do an interview in a paper on what we wanted to be when we grew up. I think it was like a sophomore in high school, and my aunt worked at U of L, and I just asked her, I said, hey, do you think Denny Crum would be interested? Denny Crum was already retired from U of L. She wrote him an email, he wrote her back within 5 minutes and said, yeah. Shows you what kind of person that guy is. But long story short, I did an interview with him. It was about being a basketball coach, which is what I thought I wanted to be. First off, I wanted to be a basketball player, but you see my stature, it's not really something that was in the cards for me. But I actually got into coaching later as I got out of high school and loved it. I mean, we coached together, but it just, I don't know, it got kind of tough, and something I was always able to do was talk. I always got in trouble in school. You know, you get the report cards and it says talks too much. I always had that check mark. So I always knew about that, and I always knew crazy things about sports. So when did I know I wanted to do a podcast? Honestly, about a week before I did my first episode.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just chilling. I was like, I guess it's about time to stop running away from this and you know, try it. Texted my buddy, said, hey, would you be interested in doing my first episode with me? He said, yeah, what will we do it on? I told him, we figured it out, recorded in his kitchen. It's been history since then.
Piggyback off of that, I mean, 94 episodes in, so
yeah.
Any memorable experiences that stick out to you?
Any memorable experiences? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them. I could tell you stories for days, but you know, you only get a certain amount of time with one of these. But the most memorable one would probably be the episode with Joe B. Hall and Denny Crum. I got to go and pick up Denny Crum at his house and drive him to the city of Lexington. And we met up at Joe B. Hall's church. We actually went to the wrong church the first time because he was like, oh, I know where it's at. We went to the church next door. And we start to walk in, and the lady's walking out at the same time, and she's like, I think you guys are at the wrong spot. And she's like, hey, you used to coach, right? And he was like, yeah. She goes, oh, well, you know, I used to love watching you coach, which was crazy to hear because we were in the city of Lexington. Well, you know, we walk into the church that Joe B goes to, eat some great potato soup in there, listen to these guys haggle back and forth, get to sit with Oscar Combs, which a lot of UK fans would love to hear, and record with two, not just like I said before, not just Hall of Fame guys, but Hall of Fames in the game of basketball. I got to drive Joe B. Hall home as well after that, and it was crazy just hearing stories from that, man.
Ah, man, I can imagine. What are your goals and intentions with your podcast? Are you thinking about maybe traveling, doing conferences, live shows, national coverage, or even like maybe YouTube?
First off, my goal is just to make this a thing instead of just outside of my local area. I want to be known on a national level. To be somewhat like a Joe Rogan type thing would be fantastic. But we will be on YouTube soon. YouTube's going to be probably within actually our next 5 to 6 episodes. Live shows, I've had offers to do that. It just has to work out with mine and my co-host schedule. We have a lot of things on the horizon that we're really excited about, and those things will definitely be brought to the forefront.
Okay. Where can folks find your podcast?
We're actually in a lot of places now. When I first started, we were just on SoundCloud and iTunes. Now we're on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeart, and you can also download the app called Hall About Sports. It's owned by Brian Hall, the producer for 93.9, the local radio station here. It plays sports podcasts on there, and mine's just one of the rotation.
Nice. Any suggestions for others who may want to get into a podcast or start their own podcast?
Any suggestions? You gotta want to do it. That's the biggest thing. Is every week, there for a while when I was doing it by myself before I added my partner BJ, it was getting tough because it was like I'm having to scrounge up stuff and think about, hey, is this something I want to do by myself? B, is there somebody that would be willing to do it with me? And not only that, but also be as hungry with it. And the other thing is, you have to be able to talk. If you can't talk, that's the thing. I still don't listen to my episodes, so that's what's weird. I don't listen to my own episodes. It's crazy because you sent me some stuff and I've listened to myself speak on that, but I don't listen to my own episodes. So don't be afraid to talk and stuff like that, but biggest thing is just be focused and be ready to do it every week.